EA WRC is the free game on PlayStation Plus this November. So if you're watching this after November 2025, sorry. However, you can stay and watch this video anyway, because the game, now that they've stopped development on it and it's also a little bit older, from 2023, the good news is if you don't pick this up on PS Plus, then it's going to be a really good deal somewhere, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So stick around anyway if you're watching this in the future. Sorry if you missed out, or if you did pick it up and you haven't played it and you're thinking about it and you might go, oh, might make some space on the old PS5 for it, then guess what, stick around for that as well. Basically, the video is for anyone interested in EA WRC. I'm going to talk about the game. I'm going to talk about why it's free as well, and the unfortunate case of how this game has no longer got any new developments. But in regards to the World Rally Championship game catalogue, this is probably one of the best, if not the best, that's been produced. I'm not really counting the Colin McRae games. However, this game is a successor of that. I'll jump more into the history as well. And on top of that, why this is also great, because hopefully we will see Dirt Rally 3.0 come out. So EA WRC has been offered as one of the free monthly games for PS Plus subscribers. So if you have PlayStation Plus and you're watching this in November 2025, make sure you check out your free games. I always add every single one anyway, even if I'm never going to play it. I like growing that library, and you do sometimes get the odd little gem that pops up, or you pick up a game you might not play it at the time, but then later down the line you do. I remember in 2020 during the pandemic picking up Call of Duty World War II, and that's a game I've gone back to quite a bit. Really good first person shooter. Now that's neither here or there, but some of the games are a bit mid, but EA WRC is actually one of the really good ones. It's the latest in the World Rally Championship games series, and let's just jump straight in. So the game has a huge host of modes and builds on Dirt Rally 2.0. Now this game was developed by Codemasters and EA, and even though Codemasters haven't held the WRC license, which is actually quite shocking when you think about it, it's been held by Milestones and Nacon. What has been quite interesting is how Codemasters have still developed World Rally games without the World Rally license. They've had official cars and they've made their own events, and it's just been amazing. Check out the Colin McRae Rally series from the 2000s. There's some gems in there. I particularly remember Colin McRae Dirt, the first one, and of course Colin McRae Rally 04. Those were a few of the big ones that pop up into my head. And the last game in that series was Dirt Rally 2.0, which was a very hardcore rally game. It was, okay, we've got the mainline Dirt series with Rallycross and a much more simplified handling system. Cody's would also build a rally game for people like me who love the more simulation handling. So these games are basically sims, and it's just awesome. Of course, you get an amazing career mode in EA WRC. You can create your own team, pick your own class, and because it has the official WRC license, you can start off in Junior WRC, go to WRC 2, and then head into the top tier of Rally 1 with WRC, and it's awesome. Of course, you play as a team owner, like a privateer, but you can, of course, modify the cars so you can drive official cars. So maybe you have a favourite team like M Sport Ford, or Toyota Gazoo Racing. You can pick one of these cars and drive it. Or if you don't want to do that, just like in the F1 games, you can also build your own rally cars from scratch. You can choose the class, engine layout, parts, appearance, interior, exterior. Here's a bit of footage of me on screen. I'm building a car. It ends up looking a bit more like a Ford Puma, but I based the livery off a custom coupe from Burnout 2. I love that green and blue car. So you've got your options there. You can create a team and maybe simulate yourself being a privateer, buying cars from manufacturers, or you could just build your own car outright. I'm not a big fan of the car builder. I've never been a fan of own team career modes. I mean, if I'm going to play a racing game of an official championship, I want to be in that championship. I like to pick a driver and be the driver. I want to be Kalle Rovanperä fighting for success with Toyota, or Oyt Tanak, who just announced his retirement, try and get that one last title in the Hyundai. The point is, I like picking and choosing the real stuff. But of course, there's also the championship mode, which is exactly that as well. You can just literally pick a driver and a real world car and just do a season from 2023, and if you bought the DLC you can do 2024. So there is of course that for people like me who just like the old school approach. Rallying is a very different and unique sport for a lot of people. I mean, people will have probably seen it on TV or maybe played a game in passing, but rallying is a very unique one. Good news is this game does have rally school, so you can do the tutorial and go through all the different rally services and also the different types of cars, you know, front wheel drive, four wheel drive, rear wheel drive, hybrid systems as well. You can try out what makes modern rallying, and it gives you a place to learn and practice and not get too frustrated, because these games are very hardcore. You know, you don't have a mini map, you just go and listen to your co-driver and fly through the stages trying to get the best time in the event. So yeah, you know, you've got to bear that in mind. So getting some practice if you're brand new to rallying games in particular, or any racing game, yeah, if you're new to racing games as a whole, I wouldn't recommend it, but maybe worth picking it up and having a play down the line. It's good to get some practice in. So if you're new to rallying, there's a tutorial which will just give you everything, and I did every single one, and I thought it was a really good entry-level introduction into rallying, which I think is important. Of course, there's moments as well, so if you want to go and play a moment of history in rallying, you can. It will give you a select scenario, a rally or a stage in a particular car at a particular location as a particular driver, and you go and get the best time. There will also be additional circumstances. Maybe you start off with the car with some damage, or maybe you just have to get the best time without getting any damage. The point is, it gives you some flexibility and a little challenge, and that's quite good for repeat play, because once you've done the career mode, you know, this game has some replayability, and along with the fantastic moments, there's also clubs, which is cross-platform multiplayer mode where players can contribute to club events in their own time. And I really love this mode. Life can be difficult getting into a race with friends, but this allows you to compete in an online tournament and practice for it, but it gives you usually like a week or two to complete that event, depending on the tournament setup, which is absolutely fantastic, because you can play that in your own time and set an evening and go, right, I'm going to set a time tonight, I'm going to go for it, and it gives you that pressure. You know, you can't restart. Once you're in, and once your time is locked in, that's your precision, and you just got to hope you've done the best you can. And I think it's a fantastic mode, and I know some real drivers have even set up a few events in that as well. So it's, and of course I don't think they're going to shut down any of this anytime soon. I think this game's going to be going on for a good few years. Dirt Rally 2.0 is still very much operational, and the best part as well is the game does have a bit of timelessness as well, because there's a whole variety of different cars. Of course, you have the contemporary World Rally Championship cars from today, you know, the Toyota Gazoo Racing Yaris, the Hyundai i20N, the Ford Puma from M Sport, but also you can go back in time into the mid-2000s with like the Peugeot 206 and the Citroen C4. You can go to the Colin McRae era with his Subaru Imprezas, all the way even to the Mini Cooper days. The point is, there's flexibility, there's a lot of cars in this game and a lot of modes, and it does give this game a little bit of replayability. You don't have to worry about it being the latest game. If you want to go and recreate something from the 2000s, guess what? You can do that. And of course, the current cars are still going to be the current cars until 2027. So although the liveries might become out of date quite quickly in Rally 1, you don't have to worry too much because there's not really any changes. So you've got an amazing racing game here, and it's just fantastic. Built off an amazing Dirt Rally engine, but also with all of the official WRC stuff. EA and Codemasters do get a lot of stick, and rightly so. But this is one of the games which I think a lot of people have sat and gone, they did a good job, and it wasn't even going to be a yearly release. They were going to keep this game running for a good few years and just update it with a DLC pack for the new season, so you get all of the new liveries in Rally 1, Rally 2 and Rally 3, etc. Junior WRC, you got your choices basically in that, and it was awesome. I think a lot of FIFA people would have wanted, you know, why spend loads of money each year on EA FC when they could just release one game and 2-3 years of DLC and support it. I guess if you're a EA FC player, you might have a comment on that, but I think a lot of people would agree that's the big part of it. And the fact they did that with EA WRC, it was awesome. And I was happy to pay for some DLC and go back to the game every year for a few hours, for, you know, a few weeks even, and just get some gaming in with the latest cars and explore them a bit. And they were adding a lot of content. As well as that, they were going into the back catalogue and adding more and more content from previous years, including the cars from the mid-2010s, for example, when we had the 1.6 litre engines, very simple little rally cars like the Citroen DS3 and the VW Polo. You know, it was awesome. You know, this game has had some insane potential, and of course it's all still there, it's still alive, and you can go and play it. But the sad thing is, this game is actually now entering its twilight already. But what is going on? Well, EA Codemasters created this game in 2023, and in 2025 they announced they were stopping development of future WRC games and DLCs. The WRC license has now gone to Nacon, which is a French developer, and they'll be starting their new game in 2027. So that'll be with the new regulations as well, because rallying is having a bit of a change in 2027, just like in F1. The sport every few years goes through changes, so at least for a while you've still got the current contemporary cars in EA WRC. But of course, if you want to drive the new stuff in 2027, you're going to have to pick up the new game from Nacon, which of course they didn't do the best job. A lot of people were playing Richard Burns Rally or Dirt Rally 2.0, and I never really knew people who played the WRC games. You know, they'd probably pick it up once every now and then, but I was never interested in them. I remember playing the 2010 WRC game from Milestone and thought this was awful, and they never really recovered their reputation from that. EA WRC felt like the right place. Now, unfortunately, this is actually part of EA's positioning. It's a low priority for EA at the moment. Rally games are not the big thing, and they aren't making the money compared to FIFA, Formula 1 and Madden, which of course, unfortunately, as a business, they're going to count that into consideration, especially now they've just had the Saudi takeover, and I know that's going to be changing a lot of stuff going forward, I think, especially with some of these licenses. The WRC license probably wasn't as profitable compared to Formula 1 and FIFA / EAFC, but when it came to what was coming up in current WRC, yeah, it's just a little bit tough at the moment, because WRC is in a bit of a stale position. There's only 3 manufacturers in top category. There are talks of like Subaru coming back, but only as a Toyota customer. So WRC in general is actually struggling, and drivers are pulling out of it. It's not a great position, and I can understand why EA have gone, let's just, let's get rid of this cost of a license that's probably not going to bring a lot in, which is a shame, because rally games have always been quite popular. So what does this mean then, to round it off? Well, no more EA WRC sequels. The 2023 game, that's it, it's finished with 2024 DLC. So if you want to play last year's season, you can buy that, that's fine. And of course there's loads of other content as well from previous seasons in this game, but that's pretty much it on that front. And it means there will be a gap in rally games, at least until the new license period begins. So until then, we've got this game as the latest, and it is free, so that's fantastic. But this also does mean a potential end, I hope not, to Codemasters' 25 years of rallying. Of course, it started off with the Colin McRae games on the PS1, and then it became Dirt in the late 2000s on PS3 and Xbox 360. Of course, they had Dirt Rally, which has became a huge success in its own right. Dirt Rally 2.0 was the base for EA Sports WRC. I think that's a really sad thing. This has been one of Codemasters' flagships. I remember Colin McRae Dirt 2, possibly one of my all-time favourite racing games. But I do hope Codemasters will bring this series back, albeit as Dirt Rally 3.0. I think there's a huge demand for it going forward, and it would mean they could produce the game without having to deal with all of the heavy licenses. They could still easily get each license for all the cars they have in the current game of EA Sports World Rally Championship, but they can do it with their own base game, exactly like EAFC. And that would make everyone happy, because they can control the licenses, because I don't really care about competing in the World Rally Championship. I'm more interested in the cars themselves. If you gave me a Toyota Gazoo Racing Yaris with Kalle Rovanperä driving through a stage, and maybe it wasn't the official World Rally Championship, I wouldn't care, because rallying is one of those sports that, even though WRC is the pinnacle, there's also other categories as well, and other events that aren't part of the WRC that are huge in their own right. You know, the American Rally Association comes to mind, the British Rally Championship, the European Rally Championship. You can do so much with those instead. And of course, you could always have a Rally 1 championship and keep these cars in with their hybrid systems. But it doesn't need to have the official license, as long as you've got the cars and some decent locations and some challenging stages with different weather and track surfaces. I'm going to tell you now, your fan base is going to be happy with the decision. So that is what I would like to finish off, and I hope that in the future they do go, let's make Dirt Rally free, because I think that would even be more of a success than Nacon's World Rally Games. And I hope Nacon do a good job, but they haven't done an amazing job. It was reasonable. The truth is, if you could pick up Dirt Rally 2, which became quite easy to get hold of, that was always going to be the better game, and I think a lot of people would stand by that as being the better rally game. So there you go. Highly recommend this game. Pick it up, play it, and if you haven't picked it up in November for free, or you're on a different system, if you can pick this up, especially at a bit of a discount, it is so worth the money, because you're going to have hours of fun. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed today's video, subscribe for more. I've got some really cool stuff coming up on this channel in the next few weeks. I've got a brand new series on a brand new game, which is very different to racing, called Black. That's starting literally now, and of course if you're watching in the future, go and check it out, because we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. It's a very old school let's play, so if you want to sit back and relax and enjoy it, and yeah, and of course I'm gonna be doing loads of racing content as I normally do too, so wins all round guys. Anyway, I'll chat to you all very soon. Bye bye for now.